Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality, a show designed to share spiritual insights with you so that you can comprehend the universe and how it functions. You are about to experience raised consciousness. This is a place where spiritual principles are shared with the goal of assisting you to expand your understanding of both the seen and unseen worlds. Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality helps you to discern the timeless truths handed down from wise sages through the ages, from the airy-fairy nonsense that is being taught today. Now, here is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth.
Welcome to Luminescence Common Sense Spirituality. I'm always so pleased that you have chosen to join us. And this is the radio show that disseminates esoteric knowledge and common sense spirituality. Now, I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth. I've created namology science, the ability to know all about a person's personality and the soul's purpose simply from a person's name. Now, the beautiful inspirational music you always get to hear on my show is by, it's out of the song Shine by Dee L'Amour. You can hear more of her music by visiting DLamour.com, DLEMOR.com. Okay, and Shine's also available on all streaming platforms. Now, our topic today was going to be pets, and it was going to be with Lori McQuarrie. But, you know, life just has its ups and its downs and its challenges. And Lori, at the last minute, was not able to make it. So Susan Klopfstein very graciously said she'd step in and talk with me. Now, Susan is a soul scientist, a psychotherapist, spiritual healer, and founder of Soulwealth. That is a healing process that begins where psychotherapy leaves off. Now, Susan graduated Summa Cum Laude with an MA in clinical psychology from the National University in Irvine, California. She has dedicated more than 20 years to developing and mastering her Soulwealth healing techniques, which identify the unique spiritual wealth of information, knowledge, and experience of every client. Now, as the former communications and marketing manager for Toshiba America, Susan won awards for her national advertising campaigns and developed the crisis management campaign that handles unfortunate actions and the corresponding press. Now, she managed an annual budget of $9.4 million and oversaw the advertising launch of 15 new products. Along with utilizing her unique healing techniques, Susan uses her business experience to help people with their business plans. So, today I want to welcome Susan and thank you for stepping in at the last minute. It's always so nice to talk with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. And for those animal lovers, I want to tell you that I have my pup-ups, my dog, Cooper, right behind me today. And when I go through some of the information that I'm going to go through, I will talk about what is applicable to animals as well. And I don't have the background in communicating with them that Lori is so gifted to have. Yes, but I do have a close relationship with a number of horses that we've had in our family and dogs in our family. And I have known over time as I've worked with families that some of the dogs they do have some things that we have. And as I talk about certain things today, we're going to actually flip the topic a little bit. We're going to talk about some elements of karma and healing. I'll be able to incorporate that which dogs and cats are also affected by. So you got a little bit of pets today.
A little bit. We'll just wait till Lori comes back because she's the expert. I have done so carefully of all of you where your experts are, and so it's a little bit more challenging when we try to step into somebody else's shoes. And you are so good with the healing. Susan, talk about healing for a minute. What have you found with some of your clients that have cancer? What causes that?
Cancer. Well, it can be a number of things. When I look at people, a lot of cancer that I see doesn't necessarily originate in this lifetime. What I see is cancer, what manifests in cancer in this lifetime, really manifests more in past lifetime. And in fact, it was one of the things that I was going to talk about today. I was going to talk to the issue of cellular memory.
Great. Go for it.
It's really fascinating because on the whole, if you look at Karma 101, karma is essentially, it's debts, right? And if you think that the Christian religion or the Jewish religion doesn't incorporate karma, consider this. In one of the greatest prayers of all time, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. That statement of the Lord's Prayer incorporates all karma. Debt is karma. In the Old Testament, it says that we will repay every whit and tittle of that which we have done in omission or commission to hurt ourselves or others. Okay? So that is karma. When we omit something, when we forget to take care of our children, our pets, all right, that's a karmic issue on us. When we omit to take care of something that causes someone else grievous injury or pain, that's a karmic issue that we will pay every whit and tittle for. When we do something, when we do an act of commission to overtly hit or harm someone, we have the consequence of that. We may not have it in the same lifetime, but we will have it. That is the karmic principle. And it's in our Bible, we say, forgive them, right? Forgive them. They know not what they do. That's one of the stations, one of the things that Jesus said on the cross. Forgive them. They know not what they have done. But forgiveness, the actual pre-Hebraic term forgiveness means, I forgive this. I forgive it back. I didn't intentionally cause this pain. I didn't mean to create this. I forgive it back. I forgive it back to my higher soul and spirit to transmute into information and knowledge that will help me to heal. I forgive it back to God. I forgive it back to the person that caused me great, great, grievous pain. And I forgive it back to God, whose shoulders are much bigger than mine are, and who would love to take this injury, this pain, for me, and to help me to rebalance my life. Yeah?
You know what's interesting, Susan, is when you say wit and tittle of all the debts to ourselves and others, I think it's really easy to see if we accidentally oopsed it with somebody else. But how often do we notice when we do that to ourselves and that we also cause a karmic debt to ourselves? Talk to us about that, please.
Let's talk about what's in our world today. It's clear. When people choose not to work, when they choose not to express their gifts and talents and give equally of those gifts and talents and enter the exchange of life, they're giving their gifts and talents for approval and remuneration from others. That is a karmic debt to the self. That's a debt to the self. And it's a debt to your community because you're not taking care of your contracts to fulfill a role in your community, right? So that would be a debt of omission. A debt of Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So you've seen me do the name readings, okay?
Yeah.
And so there's 7 things. Thank you. So there's 7 things that the soul wants to really focus on and have experiences in that. So I want to just understand clearly what you're saying with the debt to self, because I think that's an idea that a lot of us don't think about, that we are creating karma for ourselves. And so with ourselves, would that mean that if, let's say I have my 7 things, and one of them is, let's just say, is to learn how to think I'm good enough or to stand up for myself, okay? Let's just say something like that. And I fail to learn that, or I fail to have the experiences, instead of experiencing it to really master that concept, I avoid it. Are you saying now I've created a karmic debt to myself?
Yes. And let me explain. When you allow someone to abuse you, okay, when someone allows someone else to abuse them, to get them addicted to drugs, when they allow someone else to molest them, okay, and they never raise a red flag, they never hold that other person responsible for it, then what happens is that's a karmic debt to yourself. You still have to free yourself from addiction. You still have to heal yourself from sexual abuse to the full extent that you can. You know, that is your responsibility. But in addition, we have to hold other people responsible because they have no incentive to heal themselves unless they're held responsible. So as a responsible person, it becomes really critical to bring abuses up and to confront them.
So sometimes it's really hard for somebody to stand up for themselves. Like when
it is hard. It can be so hard. And I would also suggest, particularly for people that are have concerns about legal prosecution in the wake of conveying that someone pushed them into drugs. In the case where someone is sexually abused, I would not stand up alone. I would stand up with a therapist. I would stand up with legal people because you need people behind you. Sometimes when you're disempowered, it becomes critical to hold other people up with you. And I have no problem with, I have done that for many people at times. You know, you can't stand alone. And it's okay. God's given us very special people who stand with us at times.
Well, I want to say that for everybody that's listening, if you have an AR combination in your first or middle name, that means that's one of your challenges. That's one of your 7 in this lifetime, is to be able to stand up and voice for yourself. Now, when I'm doing a name reading, I always say to start with just affirming yourself, because that AR also says that they're very sensitive, okay, and they don't want to hurt somebody else. So how do you stand up for yourself but without attacking the other person? Now, if it's a legal thing like a sexuality or, you know, those other things that you mentioned, definitely get assistance and help. But if it's just a normal, everyday, you know, somebody just passes along an insult because they're in a bad mood or something, you know, or they want to bring you down to their size. What I always say is simply affirm and make something positive out of everything that they said that was negative. For an example, the example I use a lot is, let's say if I came up, and I wouldn't do this to anybody, but let's say I came up and I said, "Oh my goodness gracious, that is the ugliest green I have ever seen in a shirt. Why would you want to wear that ugly green? You know, it's just puke green. And look at how that shirt hangs on you. It is so loose. It looks like you must have gotten it out of the garbage or a hand-me-down or something." Let's just say I'm insulting. So I just want to give an example. And so the person, to stand up for themselves, would say, "You know, every time I look down and I see this green shirt, it reminds me of the really soft grass where it doesn't hurt your feet and you can run barefoot, and it feels so good and is so joyful. And the way this shirt hangs on me, it doesn't restrict my movement, and I just can reach or dance or swing or do whatever I want to, and I'm not being restricted." So that's just an example of how you affirm yourself, and it causes a reaction in the other person where they start feeling guilty and badly that they even did that to you in the first place. And so they immediately learn, don't talk to that person like that. It doesn't work anyway. And you still feel good about your shirt or whatever it was that they were insulting because you affirmed yourself. So, Susan, you were talking about...
You could do that. You could even go, "Oh, I forgive you for being so verbally abusive. What is with you? I love this shirt." And then what happens is you've activated karma for them, and you've shown them how sometimes, you know, putting all that negative out gets reflected back in an incredibly powerful way.
You know, that's a really good idea. You know, we're always taught, those of us that, any of us, I think all of us, as we've studied different religions or spirituality along the way, that the appropriate response is always to come from love. And we are to come from love in as many moments as possible. And sometimes it's quite challenging. But, it's an act of love to simply say, wow, you must be in a really rotten mood today to want to come up here and insult me like that. I hope that worked for you. I mean, I've done that with students in the classroom. I've gone, whoa, something must have happened at home or in the hallway because look at this attitude,
Oh, one of the things that I get a charge of course, I'm living here in Maine on an island off the coast of Maine. And there are a lot of people here that literally they started kindergarten together, right? They've known each other all their lives. And they will talk to each other like this. What side of the bed you get? I think you better go home right to bed. I don't want to hear you say that and anything like that to me again. Not today.
Yeah, you definitely got up out of the wrong side of the bed. Well, that brings us to our first commercial break. And when we come back, Susan and I are going to talk about what part cellular memory plays in the issues that manifest in today's body. So please stay tuned and come right back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
I'm Kathy Williams, host of Sexy Mom Abundant Life radio show on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. On the show, we explore living abundantly in every area of your life. Ways to let go of limiting patterns and beliefs and to step into the flow of creativity and possibility, knowing you are supported by the universe.
Susan Klopfstein created an incredible spiritual practice called Soulwealth that releases blockages from your life. Curses, trauma, karma, old commitments and contracts dissolve. Significant health issues, negative beliefs, unhealthy relationships, and destructive behavioral patterns simply fade away. All of the obstructions that no longer serve you on your life path simply dissipate, making possible a more joyous, fulfilling life. Contact Susan Klopfstein at soulwealth.com for a most loving, spiritual Soulwealth session.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Welcome to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. This is your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and my guest today is Susan Klopfstein. And we are so appreciative of her stepping in because Lori McQuarrie, who was scheduled to be on, had something come up at the very last minute. If it hadn't, she would have been here talking about pets, so we'll get her back on again another time where she can talk to us all about the souls of pets and how they evolve in comparison with adults, with humans. So we said that when we came back, we wanted to learn what part does cellular memory play in the health issues that we find ourselves experiencing this lifetime. So, Susan, go ahead and take it away.
The cellular memory is one of those things that's, think about a disease state that you might have suffered and died of in a past lifetime, right? And our bodies still carry the recessive DNA of what we experienced in a past lifetime. So say if we experienced chickenpox, if we suffered and died of it, we may have quite an outbreak of shingles in this lifetime. Not just shingles of what we might have had as chickenpox early in our lives in this lifetime, but past lifetime. And in addition, a lot of people that have that I've worked with that just have spontaneous organ and glandular failures, frequently I find that they've had some sort of plague, Black Plague, Egyptian plague, in a past lifetime, where they had an organ or gland failure and a lot of internal bleeding. Another one, overweight. You know, many people that are really struggle with overweight in this lifetime have been overweight in a past lifetime, or they've had glandular failures in past lifetime that are beginning to fail in this lifetime, causing them to add a lot of weight. Another thing is we're going to come back to that issue of cancer, because you asked about cancer and what do I see as some of the leading causes of that. Cancer is a really interesting one, because on the one hand, it can be an infection of some sort that we have in this lifetime or past lifetime. It can also be sourced by a toxicity in this lifetime, but also in past lifetime. Well, what I see frequently, cancer is sourced by DNA of someone else that we carry in past lifetime that is particularly antithetical to us, and it will source an organ or glandular failure in this lifetime. Also,
now see,
say someone, you know, I was just going to with this at 4.
Hold that thought for just a minute. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
When you're saying that sometimes it's the DNA coming through, you know, I'm writing this book on the health and the names in the health, right? And I have found that the letters that represent the different health issues, if it's in your last name, that's what you're talking about. It's that DNA that comes through and it passes to you. And just as you said, sometimes it can be from a past life. That's if you have a middle name and the illness is sitting in the middle name. I know from looking at a name that you've brought it into this lifetime. And that if it's only in the first name, then that means you're creating it here and now. Okay, keep going with your story. I just think it's fascinating. You're giving me all the spots, and I'm going, yes, and I can tell you where you find those in the name to know how it got there.
I don't think there's any mistake in that. In fact, I think that we bring in some illnesses from past lifetime because we could have saved ourselves from those illnesses in past lifetime, and we didn't. That is another example of a karmic issue of omission to the self, right? We allowed ourselves to die of them. We didn't stretch ourselves to try to save ourselves in past lifetime from that one, illness. So we're struggling with it in this lifetime because we're taxed with making sure we don't die of that in this lifetime. That's probably why it's held in the middle name. And it may be that we're not overcoming a belief system that we acquired in past lifetime or that we acquired newly in this lifetime. And many belief systems are associated with certain disease states, right? So if I could look at belief system, why do some people, why are they dying of COVID? And others can get COVID and just get a headache and it's gone. Is that just because of the strong immune system? I don't believe so. I think COVID is very much associated with people that want to belong in a group. And for whatever reason, they feel excluded from that group. And so they are the ones that are prone to get COVID. And I also think the ones that are most vulnerable to COVID are the ones that want to be a member of a group, and that group is on their life path. But for whatever reason, whether it's a community association or a larger community group that they want to be a member of, they just cannot seem to break into that group. And they are feeling like their life is losing purpose because they cannot break into that industry group, that company, that
social status.
that social group, that social status. Exactly. And they're giving up.
Okay, so let's go back for just a minute, because I know I've heard you clear things for many people over all the lovely years I've gotten to know you. And so sometimes you'll look at somebody, you'll go, oh, that illness is in the body. Sometimes you say that illness is in the spirit. It's in the spirit body, but it's sourced in the spirit body, not in the physical body. And that's when doctors don't do a good job diagnosing it, because they're not seeing the spirit body and they can't find anything in the physical body. Talk to us how that one works.
Yeah, I was talking to an internist, it's a wonderful internist, he's part of my choir, and he was saying, I've got clients that struggle with that phantom pain, phantom pain, and I don't know what to do for them. And, the dilemma is, I say always, send them to me. I'll know how to get rid of it. And of course they can't, because it's a medical issue. But this is what I frequently see. And it can be for disease states, but what I really see it for is the states of accident. We all suffer trauma, and trauma there are many types of trauma. It's loss, accident, illness, separation, abandonment, abuse. But when you have accident trauma and violence trauma, right, they source shadows in the body. So when I'm looking at someone, there are sometimes shadows that I see over the self, and I can see, oh my goodness, this happened when they were 2, and this is an accident. They fell from a looks like a truck, right, and they were only 2, and the kidney is misplaced. And we have to shift. I'm going to be healing the shadow from the kidney and shifting the kidney. Did that to my son. And another one, he had been adopted. He came to me, and I could see this on him. This was long before I got him. The same could be true for accidents. I'll see the soul above the body, and I'll look at the soul, and the soul will have dark traumas on it that I can see. And it's bleeding through to the physical, right? But it's a shadow pain. It won't show up on an MRI. It won't show up on a CAT scan. It won't show up on the physical body. But that person will be really limping around saying, oh, my goodness, how do I control the pain in this hip? Well, the way you control it is identify what happened. Because... And this is spiritual also. This is a spiritual principle. It says in the Bible, if you can name it, if you can call it in my name, it will be gone. And so part of the issue of being a past life therapist is to see what happened to someone. Is it a shadow of an accident trauma? That happens to many people in past lifetime. Is it a shadow of violence? Violence is released differently. Violence must be released with forgiveness. Forgiveness activates karma for the other person that was violent, that chose violence. Karma is not necessarily activated until it is forgiven.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Isn't that something? That's spiritual law.
I think, doesn't that start with forgiving yourself?
Forgiving
whatever part you played?
Well, yes, but, and sometimes not being able to protect the selfhood. Yes, definitely. But when someone is purposefully violent to you, I think you can forgive yourself not being able to protect yourself, but you also must forgive them, because that is truly the giving it back. I forgive this back to the person that chose to swing that axe. I didn't swing an axe. I forgive it back. And when you forgive it back like this, it goes to the Heavenly Father, but it goes to the Akashic Records Council. And then they schedule it in as a karma for that other person to carry and then heal from.
Okay, so if I'm getting this right, now you correct my thinking here, because I'm listening really attunedly here. So if when we forgive, it activates our karma, and one of the people that we need to forgive is always ourselves, does that mean we activate our own karma? And why would we want to do that?
Our own karma is activated at the approximate age at which we experienced it in a past lifetime.
Okay.
Our own cellular memories are activated at the age at which we experience them in a past lifetime. But if someone enacts violence upon us, that violence is activated when it is forgiven. And then when the Akashic Records Council says it's time that they experience this.
Well, I'm glad you clarified that. I'm glad you clarified that. Because if not, we wouldn't want to forgive ourselves because we go, oop, that means more karma. Forget that.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It's right in our life plan frequently that we must walk through these things and challenge ourselves with them and forgive them. But the thing is, if you have these shadows of accident or even violence trauma and you're working on yourself, in this lifetime, of course, going through the medical, the allopathic methods and the prayer is very, very helpful, right? And intercessory prayer is incredible in its empowerment. But for past lifetime, it's helpful to have someone else try to see it for you, to call someone like me who would see this type of issue and have them release it and provide you with protocol steps that would be helpful in your healing. And there are certain people, I think, certain medical professionals like chiropractors, acupuncturists, acupressurists, massage therapists, medical massage therapists, people like this, fabulous at helping people to heal from trauma that is past lifetime.
Okay, so I want to come back to what you said. It's helpful to call somebody like you. I'm going to say just call Susan and you can get a hold of her at soulwealth.com. Why try to find somebody like her if you know you can get in and see her?
Oh, yeah, I love it. I just love it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
On some of the TV shows, like The Voice, that's one of the few shows that I'll watch. And they always say, with somebody with a voice like yours. And I think, why don't we just compliment and say, it's your voice? I've always wanted a person that has your voice, not somebody with a voice like yours. It's like, excuse me, you're looking straight at me, but you want that one over there? I'm not good enough. You don't want me. You want somebody like me? I don't know.
I'm very, very good, as you know, so I prefer people call me. But, I understand. Sometimes you know someone, But I do love doing this work, so I like when
I describe your work, Susan, to other people, when I say, oh, just call Susan, because sometimes they'll ask me stuff and I'll go, that's not my forte, call Susan. And how I describe it is, I go, it's like you go back in all of time and space, in all dimensions and rakias and everything else, and you say, where did this sucker originate? And I'm going to yank it from that place where it originated, pull it through all space and time and dimensions and everything else, and yank it out to the present where we can dissolve it and cancel it, right, and then get rid of it so it doesn't show up again anywhere.
That's my preference. I want anything that I am releasing for someone gone. Now, this is fascinating because it does bring us to another issue, and that is an issue that I would call constellations. Constellations are really interesting because sometimes people will call and maybe they have not gotten out of a wheelchair for the last 3 years, and I'm saying, wow, what is the sourcing for this? And I'll hear their guardian angel say, yeah, right, there are 12 different sources. And so what someone has done is I've got broken legs, I've got broken hips, I've had polio, I've got MS, and it goes on. And what they've decided to do in one lifetime is they've decided to struggle with this issue, this one issue of being crippled, 12 different times in one lifetime because I want to get it over with. So sometimes you've seen me go, okay, I'll I just released 5 things, and then 3 months they'll call you and say, but I can't walk again. And I was walking for a month, and then I can't seem to walk. And I go, okay, it's because it's a constellation issue. They've got 7 more that we have to release before they're really going to be able to work with a physical therapist, get up and fully walk. But they do. Sometimes it just takes me 2 sessions to get under everything,
Right. But, miracles happen, but sometimes miracles also need to utilize time because the body can't take on too much at once because you overpower it or overload it, and we don't want to fuse it out. I look at it as blowing a fuse if you give it too much at one time.
Oh, I had a little girl call me today that her mother had called about 2 weeks ago. And her mother wanted me to work on her. She had many, many health issues. And I'm going, you really don't want me to do that. You want me to work on the family first and get rid of these family issues and these family curses, because this little girl is going to go to sleep for the next 3 days just on those. And then you can have her call me about 3 weeks later. And so she called 2 days ago, and she said, I'm so glad that you told my mom that, because my mom was here. She had to get dinner for me. I was just asleep. I was out for 3 days, and we hadn't even started working yet. I'm not surprised. Yeah, it really overloads people. So we go a little bit slowly on major issues because people get exhausted. The releases are exhaustive.
Right. But that's what I was going to say. And I would like it at a tempo where somebody says, okay, I can handle this, versus, oh my God, I traded one bad thing for a different bad thing because now you're overloaded. And that brings us to our second commercial break. You know that they're short and quick and easy to listen to. And we will be right back with Susan telling us more about health. Stay tuned.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Mark Twain said the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. The why is hidden in your name. Sharon Lynn Wyeth has created a scientific way of deciphering your name to reveal your contract for this lifetime. And your name even specifies the 7 areas that are subsets of your soul's overall goal. Your name identifies who you are to both yourself and others. What does your name say about you? Contact Sharon Lynn Wyeth at info@knowthename.com for your stunning name review.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Luminescence, Common Sense Spirituality. I'm your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and our special guest today is Susan Klopfstein. Now, you can get a hold of Susan through her website, Soulwealth.com, and you know that if you forget anybody's website or how to contact them, all you have to do is go to knowthename.com and go to the schedule page, click on the calendar of the show that they were on, and all of their information is right there written down also. And it's a reminder, too, of what the show was about and who the guest was. Okay, so Susan, coming back, I was adding questions to my list for you because I always have questions for you. And that is, do some families agree to come in and share an illness? Like I watch diabetes, for an example, and it seems like if the grandparents are diabetics, then some of the kids are going to be diabetics. You know, it seems to like go as a group. And so I'm wondering, do families come in like with agreements that say, okay, we're all going to conquer this one together and we'll have a lot of empathy going with us because we'll all have the same issue?
Yes, absolutely they do. Also consider families, a lot of family members are soulmates. So they frequently incarnate together. Now, if you have a past, and let's take the issue of diabetes, right? Because that's a great one. The issue of diabetes. It may be that a whole family was together in a past lifetime, and they were all stabbed in the area of the pancreas and the kidneys in a past lifetime in a warfare, right? Or they could have all had a bad diet. They could have all together had parasites, which form nests in the pancreas, right? Which would make all of them vulnerable. But in addition, they, of course, could be passing this through the DNA. So there are many different reasons why a family who may be all soulmates have the same illness. But sometimes it's not DNA. It's just not DNA related. And it's not DNA from a past lifetime, which is amazing to me. I have seen it many different ways. And anxiety, there are a lot of families that come in and, 3 or 4 members of the family all suffer with a severe form of anxiety. Well, it may be that they were all attacked together in a past lifetime, or they were all threatened and lived with fear, extreme fear, for many years together in a past lifetime, and they have become used to functioning in terror.
Oh, that would be something I would never want to get used to functioning in. God bless them. Okay, so just so that everybody knows that's listening, diabetes is located in the letter O. And so if the O shows up in your last name, it means you're inheriting the propensity to become a diabetic again in this lifetime. If the O only shows up in the middle name, it says that you had diabetics in your last lifetime, diabetes, and that, again, did you cure it? Is that thinking changed? Did it get solved? Or are you going to bring it up again in this lifetime? Okay, so it's like a subconscious choice. Now, if the O only appears in your first name, it says that you're creating that by your habits in this lifetime. You are literally creating that diseasement in your body. So let's say you have it in your last name and says that you're susceptible to it. If you have complementary letters like another O in your first name or a complement of O in your first name, that means you're more susceptible than maybe your brothers or sisters to also inheriting that because you've already got receptivity to it. So I just thought I'd use that as an example for how health works in the name. Okay, so Susan, along with families that you were saying that can get it that way, let's say, well, we're very close as friends. So let's say I have empathy for something that you're going through. If I listen a long time to the aches and the complaints and the whatnots of the illness, does that make me then susceptible to that same ailment because now it's in my thinking pattern too? I mean, I know that as a kid, I trained myself when somebody else was talking about their ailment. The whole time I was listening to be telling my body, thank you for for my perfect health. Thank you for staying so incredibly well, while I was also listening to them, because I was always concerned ever since a child. I don't want to pick up any of those thought patterns. And so I don't know if I'm just neurotic in that way or there's substance to that. What do you think?
I think that if you're an empath, when you are standing there very close to someone, right, your etheric fields are blending, and an empath picks up the disease states. It doesn't pick up the actual disease states, but it picks up the
energy or the thought patterns that help to create it.
It's more the energy of it. The energy of it. I suspect they pick up the positive and the negative imbalances in the ionic balance of the other person's etheric field more than anything else. But there's another kind of sympathy that I do want to address, and this is a fascinating one. When it occurs in families, and what will happen a lot of times in families where people love each other and they have contracts to each other, sometimes a parent will carry a degree of illness for a child in order to sustain that child's life, or a spouse will carry a degree of illness for another person to carry that person's life. Or like right now, one of my sons is battling an unusual form of MS that is sourced by beating trauma in a past lifetime. And I am carrying some of that pain for him, which is causing me exhaustion, in order to help him survive and overcome it, and also to help him. He's an incredible healer himself. Do you know what I mean? And this occurs in families, and I'm going to bring up animals, because animals...
I was just going to say that.
Actually,
they can do that too, can't they? And now we're getting all pets back in here.
We're getting pets, I'm determined, because pets can carry shadows from past lifetimes. They can carry shadows of accidents and trauma from past lifetimes. Usually pets, horses, dogs, cats carry 3 karmic issues, as many as 3. They can also carry elementals, which are like large dark spots. They actually show up as a bright red, which tells me that my dog may have bit another dog in a past lifetime on his far right hip for survival, and I need to release that from him because he's carrying the shadow of that in this lifetime, right? So they carry things like that as well.
Well, I was going to say, I think they take on a lot for the owner to say, hey, wake up. Look, if I manifest it in my body, I'm showing you what's happening in yours. Are you paying attention?
Yeah, exactly. They do. They also carry certain types of cellular memories. Like this one is struggling with lymph cancer. He doesn't have lymph cancer, but his lymph glands go low. And I can look at him and say, oh, gosh, you just gained about 3 pounds. I need to deal with this again. And it's because of something that he got into in a past lifetime. So he's still carrying that. So animals can carry certain disease states from past lifetime that manifest in this lifetime as well.
Okay, so let's clarify for a minute. If someone is carrying a disease state or an animal is carrying a disease state, okay,
yeah,
then it doesn't mean the entire life we're carrying that disease state. It would activate, if I understood you earlier, it would activate at the same age that it affected us in the last life.
Correct.
Okay, because if not, I'd say...
manifesting over the physical.
Yeah, because if not, I'd look at it and go, well, how come I didn't have this earlier?
Yeah, it just, for some reason, it tends to be time activated. It's interesting in that way. It just tends to be time activated.
Well, that is just fascinating. So, Susan, we only have a few moments left. Is there anything about health that you would just like to real briefly inform everybody that if you do this or you think this way or whatever, your body has a tendency to stay healthier? Anything come to mind?
One thing I would say to people is try to deal with things before they become an emergency state. Try to deal with physical issues early. And if when you go to a doctor, they're not able to identify a problem quickly, call someone or think about...
Or call Susan.
Or call me before it gets to be, before you get in a wheelchair, before you have a complete issue of life that you can't go to work or you can't function, because that's letting things go too late. One of the 10 indications of a very wealthy person, it's really interesting. It was in the book 10 Habits of Wealthy People, is they don't let health issues linger. They try to keep their health on target. And I would say one thing, try to keep your health on target. If you can't get an answer quickly, try another way of getting an answer. Well, it's helpful.
Well, there's that saying, though, that you can have all the wealth in the world, but if you don't have your health, you're going to spend all your wealth on your health. So you might as well take care of it initially, when it's smaller. And then you and a few others that I'm aware of can just go in there and help clean it all out, and people are feeling much better right away. Okay, I'd like to remind everybody that you can reach Susan through her website, soulwealth.com. If you're not someplace where you can write that down, then you can always go back to knowthename.com, go to the schedule page. It looks like a calendar. Just click on today's date, and all that information will be there for you. Susan, I want to thank you for stepping in, especially so much at the last minute. And everybody, you know that we always end with the wonderful music by Dee Lemore, D-L-E-M-O-R. You can find her on hername.com, and with her beautiful music, Shine. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Next week, when we come back, we will have another exciting show for you, and hopefully we'll be right back on schedule. And so next week, we have Sandy Anastasi, and she is going to talk about how you psychically protect yourself and when it's needed and when it's good to be vulnerable. Okay, thanks for listening. This is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
Gazing in the mirror, an image of an angel smiling back at her. No wounds or imperfections, just beauty and its glow. Her laughter and her heart, a reflection of her soul. And I want to shine like the sun and smile to stop the rain. And I want to dance with the wind and believe in dreams again. Of life stroke the canvas of her, the light slightly dimmed, her reflection unseen, and all that she knew, and all that would be, it vanished like the sun rays on a shimmering